I'm by no means a specialist on Amazon on mining. I did my PhD in Peru, in the region of Madre de Dios, but it was along the Interoceanic Highway and looking into land use and cover change impacted by policies, especially agricultural policies in farmland and as well in timber concessions. But this was an area where there were, up until now, there was no really mining impact. So I was avoiding mining a lot, but I think it's not to avoid it. And let's try to see what we're going to be hearing in my presentation. I would like to put us again into the context of Amazonia, because I think it's very important. Even though, like each class, you're going to be getting into introduction of Amazonia, I think it's important to remember why Amazonia is important, and as well what is happening there in terms of the pressures. We're going to be talking a little bit about social ecological drivers as well. And then I'm going to be switching into mining extraction in Latin America, specifically the different other hotspots of mining. Then I'm going to be looking into the case study of Peru and especially riverine mining in Madre de Dios. And we're going to be watching a very small trailer on called Amazon Gold video. I don't know if some of you already watched it or not. If you're really interested in that, I would really recommend it. It gives you a very good introduction of what's going on in terms of not very well documented impacts on the social and health issues as well, and environmental as well. And then we're going to be watching as well a very short, like 2 minutes, just visualize the impacts of deforestation, of mining in Madre de Dios as well. And then we're going to be asking ourselves, where do we go from here? And I have some discussions on as well, very similar to the ones that Santiago has. So we can match it together, and I'm very happy to see some of the maps of Santiago, which include as well Peru, and we're going to be looking into this as well. So let's kind of remember what is Amazonia, why is Amazonia important? Because it contains still one of the 50% of tropical remaining forests on Earth. So it's very important to conserve it and to preserve it. And it's of critical importance because it is representative for climate regulation, for biodiversity conservation, as we saw in Santiago's presentation, and as well for biochemical cycles, balance of biochemical balance, and as well providing ecosystem services. It spans all over 11 countries, and my talk is going to be basically looking into the case of Peru. But the Amazonia is nice as it is, as important as it is, it's going through a lot of pressures at different levels, national, regional, local levels, and as well in different geographical locations. I'm sure you already have seen this graph. I adapted that for the case of Peru. The changes in the tropics are social ecological. We have a lot of drivers. I know that last week you have seen cattle ranching. We have agriculture expansion, we have urbanization, infrastructure expansion, mining, and some other extractive activities like timber, gas, oil, soybean, palm, cacao, and coca as well. And of course, they're all related to some causes. There are cultural causes, there are institutional policy causes, economic and social. For this talk, I'm going to be relating mining activities in Peru with the institutional and the policy, especially the weak governance in the region, and as well the economic. This doesn't mean that social and cultural is not important. It's just very, very difficult to and it would be a very good research topic as well. But I'm going to be looking into the economics in terms of the globalization that we're going to be looking at. So in order to popularize where mining is happening, not only in Peru is happening, but it's happening in 4 major hotspots in South America. We have the Guayanan forest ecoregion. There is 41% of mining happening there. We have the Southwest Amazon, where Madre Dios would come into question. We have the Tapajos Sinú moist forest in Brazil, and we have in Colombia the Magdalena Valley mountain forest as well. So these are other areas as well in all South America where mining is happening. And it's been happening, let's look into the map here, especially, well, you can locate here the French Guiana, the Guyanas, Colombia, Peru, and the Tapajos in Brazil. And as you will see, it doesn't work.
No, that doesn't work.
Okay.
If you don't mind, just a minute, I'm just going to mute Santiago. Or Santiago, if you can hear us, if you can mute your microphone.
Okay.
We're getting a little bit of a feedback.
If I put it on my side, would it work? Yes. Okay. So you can tell, for example, in Peru, there are like other mining areas, right? It's not only Madre Dios. The other areas which are very important as well. The difference between what's happening here is that this is the location of the Andes, and usually those are very big corporations that are working, that are extracting mining. You have single owners or kind of like a corporation of more owners. What is happening here is you have kind of like a huge number of informal miners that are extracting at the present time more than 30,000. So there's a huge difference in managing a couple of big corporations. I don't know if that's a good comparison or not, but managing kind of like a big corporation of owners in comparison to more than 30,000 informal miners. And that's exactly the point about the informality that is kind of like what makes these areas so important and relevant in terms of the devastating impacts. That's just about. So, and coming back to the economics, you can see here a graph. This is from a literature that I suggested you read. There are like two spans to periods: 2001, 2006, and 2007 and 2013. Mining activities in all South America increased drastically after 2007, after the economic crisis. Why? Because since the world markets, the world financial crisis, they saw gold more as a safety net. So they decided to demand more gold, and this, of course, more demand in gold increased the prices in gold and increased as well the extraction of gold in areas. And you can definitely see this as well in terms of what happened in relationship to forest loss. For example, between 2001 and 2006, in the major areas, there was forest loss because, of course, there was extraction of mining. But the big spots of big devastating impacts in terms of losses of forests or more and demand for mining happen, especially in the area of Madre Dios here, over 1,300 square kilometers of forest change between 2007 and 2013 as well in the Guyanas. Okay, and my talk especially is gonna be today on Madre Dios, but I just wanted to give you an overview that it's not only Madre Dios, there are other areas in all South America that are being impacted as well by the same phenomena that has been going on since 2007 through the globalization of the oil mining, the gas prices. And this is kind of maybe we can think about it because Santiago was saying that in his case the prices were going down, but it's still there has been an increase. In our case, it's because the prices have been going up that we have had such a huge impact as well the losses. So just to give you an idea as well, the price in 2000 was 250 dollars an ounce. In up to 2013, we had a price of $1,300 per ounce. I checked yesterday, and right now it's about 1,100. So it quadrupled almost the price. So this made a big change, especially because there were areas that were not much targeted for mining, and they were kind of like making profitable as well, and in areas that, like, almost every area was kind of important for mining. And what is most important as well is that this new development of mining came, of course, with a group of people in this migrant miners that came, and of course they occupied land and started developed uncontrolled mining operations. And this is happening up to these days. Every day, new mining migrants are coming, and they're trying to occupy new land, and it's almost being to the point that we cannot document how many actually are coming and how many actually are extracting. We need to understand a little bit the term informal, because at the present time we're talking about illegal. So let me give you a brief description about what I mean when I'm talking about informality and formal mining. Informal miners, they usually operate without paying taxes. They are not holding any permits of their lands or any derecho minero. That's what the right to mine. That's what we call it in Peru. And as well, they don't do any environmental impact assessment of the area. Usually as well, they come from very poor areas of Peru, and they are not engineers. They are, for the most part, uneducated. So this means as well that it's very difficult for this group of people to actually introduce maybe a formalization process. Because maybe they're not interested in that, they just come from the money. In the poor regions, they would not get any income, or even migrating to Madre Dios, they would have an income if they would stay, for example, as farmers. They would earn between $10 to $20 a day, and as a miner, they would be able to earn between $20 and $250 a day. So there's a big difference, and this, of course, makes them come, and it's a motivation to come. But mining is not only related to deforestation. They're posing a lot of health issues to themselves as well, because they use a lot of mercury as well. And so we have, for example, the case of acid mine drainage, and as well water and air pollution from arsenic and cyanide and mercury contamination. And this poses a health for themselves as well, because they're directly exposed to these products. And of course, they pollute the food chains and the water resources. And these contaminants, they of course, they release mercury into the sediments, the waterways, and as well the atmosphere. So it's a big issue in terms of environmental health and environmental pollution, for conservation, and as well for the human. And in the case of Peru, I took this from the airplane flying into Madre Dios. Of course, it's not a very good picture because of the airplane. But Peru is one of the largest producers in Latin America. It's the 6th largest producers in the world of mining. But these statistics actually do not include the country's illegal mining sector. There has been not much documentation on what really happened in mining. Up until very recently, that we had the group of Stanford University, Carnegie Institution, and as well a group of North Carolina. They produced a lot of facts, a lot of research, and especially they provided very alarming numbers of how the mining areas actually changed. And so this is the group of Greg Asner. He gave us numbers of, excuse me, numbers around 400% increase from 1999 to 2012. The annual deforestation rate tripled as well since the 2000s. And now, for example, deforestation for gold mining exceeds all other activities, extractive activities, and land use activities in Madre Dios. For example, we had activities like agriculture, logging, and cattle ranching, but mining activities includes far more, 40% more, even 40% higher than expected. And this especially because there are so many new arrivals of informal miners into the area. I'm gonna go back now because we have another group of researchers from the University of North Carolina, and they did a very simple comparison. They compared the prices of gold market prices with mercury imports and deforestation. This is an area in 2003, an area after the world financial crisis in 2009. You can see how we have kind of like new settlement of mining and extraction areas. And what they did as well, they did the comparison between high gold prices equals high mercury imports equals higher mining areas. And this as well from 2007 to between 2007 and 2010 was the highest increase as well. So there is a relationship with what happened, the impact of the world financial crisis at economic level. In terms of the environmental impact, so I already talked a little bit about the mercury, the widespread mercury pollution, but there has been another research as well by Carnegie, by Stanford University, where they actually took samples of hair of people in Madre Dios, and they found out in Puerto Maldonado, they found out that almost 80% of all residents in Madre Dios had some high levels of mercury. That actually was very scary for me because I'm living there for such a long time as well. And as well, they went to the markets to search the fish species that are being consumed by the people. And they found that as well, almost 60% of all fish species would have like a very high level of mercury exceeding the safe limit. Okay, so there is the human impact, healthy impact as well. Hunting, if we relate it now to Santiago's presentation, has been affected as well. We're starting to see a process of defaunation, almost not finding any animals at all around the edges as well. Well, in the area of mining, of course, there. And as well, a lot of tree mortality as well along the branches of the mines, the edges as well, and as well the mining and protected areas along the edges of the protected areas as well. And here are some pictures that actually I took last year together with Beth. We were on a trip in Madre Dios, and this is being taken from the bus because it's very sometimes dangerous to be in those areas. Just to give you like a little bit of idea of what we're dealing as well in terms of the settlements. This is along the interoceanic road. The road as well has made a big impact because the road has been finished being paved around 2006, 2007. So that contributed as well. It was another effect that mining was eased as well in terms of the production and could decrease, could facilitate the the mining extraction in the area. You can see that there are a lot of very poor settlements. Most of the time, they're not even very well constructed. We're talking here as well about a lot of prostitution, child prostitution. The conditions are kind of very sad. It's what we were walking. We were walking a little bit there, but this was with somebody that knew the area, like, and we were there maybe for an hour or an hour and a half. But if you don't go there with somebody who knows the area and they know you as well, it's almost impossible to actually be around here. And this is not the real settlements for the extraction economy. Along the road that goes from Puerto Maldonado to Cusco. Let me give you now a kind of like an introduction or a brief overview of what's happening on how a miner operates, because I think this is very important, and it's going to give you an understanding of the complexity of what's going on. Okay, so this is a scenario that is kind of like a formal miner. Okay? We have the miner, and a formal miner can hold a title of a concession, like the right to mine, derecho minero, or he can have started first with the claiming and exploration right as well. So you first start to claim the exploration right, and then along the process you get the right to mine. We have around 3,000 miners that are in that process. Out of the 3,000, around half of it, like 52%, have the right to mine, and kind of the rest of it, 48%, they are still in the process and they are doing, they have a claim, an exploration claim. But having that is good, because that means that you're going to an environmental impact assessment, and you're trying to be a formal miner. So can you imagine? So we have about 3,000, and on the other side we have about 30,000 that are informal or are illegal. So this miner, he has the right to mine, but he may not have the implements, the tools. So we have somebody else here who is the owner of tools and supplies that are needed for mining. So he works together with the one who holds the right, and they work together and they pay some royalties. But sometimes the miner who holds the title, he owns as well the supplies. Okay, but sometimes mining does not occur like in an area that has been zoned for mining. Mining can be everywhere. Mining can be on an area that is Brazilian concession, a timber concession, a farmland. And then that's why we have another farmer, for example, or another miner that at the same time owns as well the right of the land. That can be, again, a timber concession, a Brazilian concession, or as well the farmland, a private farmland. So he has to claim the right for mining, but at the same time, he may interact with the owner of the supplies. And the owner of the supplies, that can be somebody from Lima, that can be some Korean, some Chinese. So there's a huge interaction of who they all, how they work. And most of them, they know each other, they work in associations, depending on the location. But what happens now if, then we have the invitees, like for example, the miner who holds the claim or who has the rights, he needs more people. So he invites people. He brings people from basically sometimes the poor areas of Peru, and they're called the invitees, okay? The invitees, he can work as well with the owner, he can work with the farmer, with the timber concession, without having, for example, as well the right. now, and the invitees, they have to pay royalties to all of three. So now what's happening is that we don't have one invitees, we have a lot of invitees. And at the present time, almost undocumented numbers, because I've been trying to look into the Department of Mining and the Ministry of Mining, and it's about 30,000. And what is happening is that the invitee here, he comes and he's paying royalties to the miner, and he says, no, I don't want to pay royalties anymore. So he invades the land, and without going through a process of exploration game. He maybe has a good contact with the tools, or he tries to find his own tools in a very peculiar way, and he invites others, and the other one invites another land, and then that's kind of like a trigger effect. So this is the part that is kind of the illegal part. I think this is not the right version, but let's hope that it works. Because I had added something more here. So this is then where we have kind of like a disconnect with the legal, but with the formal process, okay? And since 2011, 2012, the government has tried to cope with this huge number of 30,000 or more, trying to force them to go through the formalization process. Some of them started the formalization process, okay? They have been very good initiatives with NGOs as well to get into getting to know and giving them all the tools in order to start, because that's a huge investment as well. But on the other side, the government has been so confusing in terms of giving laws and regulation, and not only giving them, but changing them like every 4 or 5 months, that the poor miner who wanted to really get into the process of formalization, he resisted. And then all of a sudden as well, they started with a lot of bombarding the areas, and the government sent a lot of policemen into in order to get rid of the illegal camps. And some of those illegal camps were miners that started to get the process of formalization. So this confusing momentum has made it assisted all these informal miners to continue the formalization. All the money that they invested in having their environmental impact assessment was kind of like money that was invested for nothing. On the other side, in order to comply, they have to go through 5 different ministries. And the 5 different ministries, they have 5 different rules and regulations, which of course change all the time. So the process is kind of very complicated in terms of, can we really get into a process of formalization? Because we have to manage what is going on here in terms of the operation of the illegal, and it's continuing to increase. And on the other side as well, we have here a map of the different land uses in Madre Dios. This is from a study that I did a consultancy with CIFOR. You will see that the mining concession is here, the maroon area. And most of them, sometimes, unfortunately, they overlap as well with indigenous communities that do for example, Brazil nut extraction. Then they overlap as well with Brazil nut with timber concession. They overlap as well with indigenous communities that do extract timber as well. They overlap with only native communities that don't do any other type of extraction. They overlap with protected areas, national reserves, and they overlap as well with tidal agricultural lands. Maybe you cannot see it very well here, but there is a huge overlap of areas. And that, of course, complicates even more the story, because you will have maybe an owner, as I was telling you, that is a miner that even owns the land, and he maybe has some kind of agreement with the other miners that he invited. But if there are coming others and are invading his land or are invading the timber concession because they know that there is mining, there's gold there, then this gets completely out of sync. In order, so there are huge implications in terms of the governance issues, like who is in charge of what, who is in charge of what instances, and as well from the national government as well, the different laws and the different regulations, what is the law and what is the regulation that needs to be adopted and implemented. For example, as well, another confusion in the area is that the government, the regional government, the national government, they decided to monitor the gas that is being sold in Puerto Maldonado and Madre Dios. And when you go and buy gas, you can only buy 5 gallons of gas. So, and if you buy more, then you're an illegal or you're a criminal because you're a minor. But of course, everybody's on the same pot because the banana farmers, he needs more than $5. The Brazil nut, he needs more than five gallons. So they all go to a black market, and they all finally, we're all there within a circle of black market for gas, and this is a type of regulation that the government didn't even realize. Okay, he cannot separate. The government cannot separate like who is a minor and who is not a minor. Everybody needs gas, and everybody will need to do something in order to get it. Okay, so in order to give you now more of another insight, we're gonna watch a documentary, a trailer of a documentary, 4 minutes only. It's a documentary that had a lot of good prizes. I really would suggest, if you're interested in watch the whole trailer, the whole movie, because it gives you an insight into the social part that actually I haven't been able to document much. I'm gonna try to, let's see if it works and if I'm connected as well. It's something worked.
Here for a long time. This is not new. However, what is happening today is that the price of gold has grown like 4 times. When you learn a bit more, you realize where things come from. What does it take? When you buy gold, you learn where is this gold coming from? What's happening with that gold? The war is of us against ourselves, and then who is paying for the price of it is the environment.
First glance, it's almost like looking at the Grand Canyon in America, but then when you actually start to really understand what you're looking at, it hits you even harder. What's happened here? What's happening here?
It's like the Wild West. It's mud and pigs and people and sort of Chinese-made shoes and batteries, and it's just everything.
It's a fast-growing city.
How many families a day, roughly?
It's about 100 families moving every day to live here. You need solution. Most of the income for this country is based on extraction of natural resources.
We went to this place, and the guy said, when I lived here, when I showed up here as a 10-year-old, he pointed at where all this water, brown, chocolatey looking water was pouring down through his sluice so he could get the gold out of it. And he said, you know, the Huapetue River was as wide as this sluice area. And the water was clear, and there was jungle all around, and now it's just rocks.
They filmed this from a hidden camera, so that's why not a very good quality.
We are at the edge. It's amazing that in that direction all what you hear are motors. In that direction you can hear the screaming pig has dynamos and all the animals.
Primero, como peruano, ministro del Ambiente en el Perú, yo veo al mundo que todos tenemos que trabajar juntos, porque estamos en un solo planeta limitado y que lo estamos destruyendo, en el que todos tenemos que colaborar.
I can hit escape. Is it okay if I hit escape here?
Good. Go right here. No spelling. Don't escape.
Yes, finish that action.
What's on slideshow right there?
Well, I can actually go to here as well. This time. It's the same. Okay, what to do then? What can we do? Here's some suggestions. I don't know if you would think the same way, but and if we can actually control this or not. But we have to de-emphasize the use of gold as a financial commodity. Otherwise, if the prices are going to be increasing, we're going to be seeing as well an increase of settlers, minor settlers in the area. However, I can completely understand that this is not in our controls, and it's almost impossible for us as academia to do that, or even as a regional government, or as a local government, or as a national government. So, but we couldn't work on enforced regulation for resource use policy. So I've been telling you about the confusion about like so many different regulations, like every new government, every new regional government, every new national government, they introduce new rules and new regulations, but they have to be kind of like a common ground of what needs to get changed in terms of enforced regulation and as well implemented. Enforce the improved regulation so that everybody understands that it's not confusing. Resolve conflicts over land use right. So all these overlapping areas that I was telling you, they need some kind of solution. Like who has the right? If a farmer doesn't want to be invaded by illegal miners, where can he go? With which authority does he go to? Regulate mercury's import for unregulated mining. Is that possible as well? Can we work on that? How can we work on a better structured governance system that it's not so weak. By thinking on these questions or kind of statements, I would like to show and finish as well with another very small video, but we're going to be putting that on mute because that's what has been shown for the first time to the Peruvian public as well. Politicians were seeing that, and it's kind of like an eye-opening as well of what was happening. Well, this gives us another overview of the prospects for sustainable mining are very grim. Like with all this confusion and other things going on, the situation, there's really not much happening. And we have the same, almost the same situation as Ecuador as well, with the corruption, with the elephant that Santiago was showing. Like there is a lot of corruption in terms of mercury imports, the governments that work with the companies that provide the tools for minings, and the concessions as well, who has the rights to those areas. And now you have to help me because I want to mute it. Where do I mute?
30 segundos, Ricardo, para dar cuenta a nuestros amigos oyentes de la experiencia que fue sobrevolar la zona afectada por la minería ilegal en Madre de Dios. Ya hemos visto imágenes en la televisión, reportajes periodísticos que dan cuenta.
And of course, within these areas, you will see, well, you cannot see, but there are like settlements. Like people live in there. People go in and out to the areas along the highway. But we have kids living there. We have women living there. We have like this 30,000. This is the town, the mining town, White Bedroom. But this type of images, they were not available to any Peruvians until now. This came out like about a year and a half ago. I'm not endorsing Carly at all. They are just doing a lot of research in the area. You can see here, for example, those were like kind of like settlements that start like maybe with 1 or 2 invaders. So, I want to go back to So, and now for the discussion, where we can wrap it up together with Santiago's discussion, I have kind of like 3 different questions as well. What type of alternative development policies could be implemented in order to alleviate the controversies between conservation and development, in this case, issued to mining activities? Is it feasible? How do we understand the diverse drivers at the social and economic environmental level implicated in the complex scenario of mining extraction in Latin America? And can you think of some crucial research priorities in these areas? Now I hand it over, and I'm open for questions, for answering some questions, and to help in the discussion as well. Thank you so much.